The first thing I have to tell you about time on the other side is that it does not exist the way you think it does. It is not faster or slower. It is not stretched or compressed. It is simply absent. And the absence is not frightening. It is the most honest thing I have ever experienced because time, I understood in that place, is a structure the living use to manage suffering. On the other side, there is no suffering to manage, and so the structure is unnecessary, and so it falls away. And what you are left with is something that I have spent 3 years trying to find language for and have not yet succeeded. The closest I can come is this: everything that has ever happened is present at once, and you are not overwhelmed by it. You are completed by it. My name is Diane Holloway. I died on the sidewalk outside a convenience store in October of 2021 from a gunshot wound I did not survive long enough to understand. I was 38 years old. I have 2 children. And Jesus showed me something while I was on the other side that I was sent back specifically to tell. If you are new to this channel, subscribe. What I am about to share is not something you hear once and set aside. Stay with me. And if you are one of the children I am about to talk about, if you grew up without a mother or without a father, for any reason at all, I want you to leave a comment below before we even begin, because what I was shown on the other side was shown to me for you specifically, and I need to know that you are here. Let me start from the beginning, the before. I was not supposed to be at that store that night. I had been at my sister's house for dinner, and on the way home, I stopped to pick up something for my son's lunch the next day. He was 9 at the time. My daughter was 12. Their father and I had separated 2 years earlier, and I was raising them mostly alone, which meant that stopping for juice boxes at 9:30 at night was the kind of logistical decision that happened constantly. The small, invisible labor of being the person everyone depends on. I was not thinking about anything particular. I was thinking about whether I needed to sign a permission slip that was somewhere on the kitchen counter. I was thinking about whether I had remembered to run the dishwasher. I did not hear the argument that preceded what happened. The police later told me that 2 men had been fighting in the parking lot over something I will not speculate about, and that a gun had been drawn, and that I had walked into a situation that had nothing to do with me at the exact moment it became lethal. A stray bullet. That is the phrase that appeared in the news report my sister found the next morning. A stray bullet. I did not feel it the way you imagine. There was an impact. There was the ground coming up to meet me faster than made sense. There was a sound that I now understand was my own body doing the things a body does when it is trying to stay alive and cannot. And then there was the absence of that sound. And then there was only the other place. I want to give equal weight to each part of this because each part matters. Before, during, after. The before tells you who I was. The during tells you what I saw. The after is the reason I am sitting here, and it is the hardest part, and I am going to ask you to stay with me through all of it. Let me tell you about the during. The first sensation was the one I described at the beginning, the absence of time. I did not float down a tunnel. I did not pass through a gate. One moment I was on the sidewalk, and the next moment I was simply elsewhere. The way you are simply in a different room after you cross a threshold. No drama in the crossing itself. The drama is in what you find on the other side of the door. What I found was a quality of light that the word light does not contain. It had temperature, but not heat. It had weight, but not pressure. It carried information the way that a voice carries meaning, not through mechanism, but through presence, through the specific shape of someone's intention. I understood that I was being held and that the holding was not metaphorical. It was as real as the pavement I had been lying on 30 seconds earlier. More real, actually. The pavement was already becoming less real, already becoming the thing that belongs to a place where I no longer was. And then he was there. I want to be honest about what I mean when I say that. I did not see a robed figure descending through clouds. I did not see a face framed in light. What I perceived was more like the recognition of a presence I had always known and had spent my entire life almost remembering. Like a song you hear in a dream that you wake up trying to recall and cannot, except in that place, I could recall it perfectly. And the recognition undid something inside me that I had not known was tied. Jesus was present. That is as accurate as I can be. And the presence carried grief and joy simultaneously, in a proportion that should be impossible, but was not. Grief that I was here, joy at seeing me. Both of them entirely true, neither of them canceling the other out. I need to stop here for a moment because I want to tell you something about consciousness, about what I understood in that place regarding what consciousness actually is. Because this changed everything about how I live now. What I had assumed for 38 years was that my consciousness was a product of my brain, that it arose from my biology the way electricity arises from the movement of electrons, that it was, at its root, mechanical, a fortunate accident of evolution. When I died, when the machinery stopped, I expected that to stop too. I expected nothing. That was, if I am honest, what I believed was waiting for me. What I found was the opposite. My consciousness was not diminished when the biology stopped. It was increased. What I experienced on the other side was not a pale or uncertain version of awareness, but an expansion of it so complete that what I had been calling consciousness during my life appeared, in retrospect, to be a fraction of the real thing. Like a candle compared to the sun, like a single note compared to an orchestra. I was not less aware. I was more aware than I had ever been in 38 years of being alive. More present, more clear, more able to understand what I was perceiving. And what I understood from this was that consciousness does not come from the body. The body is what filters it, what narrows it, what allows it to focus on the particular circumstances of a particular life in a particular time. But the consciousness itself exists before the body and after the body. And what we experience during a lifetime is the limited version, the version that has been made small enough to fit inside a skull and a nervous system in a human story. That understanding arrived in the space of what would have been a single breath if I had been breathing, and it rewrote everything. And then Jesus began to show me things. He showed me 7 things, 7 specific things. And I need you to understand that these were not symbolic, they were not allegorical, they were direct. The clarity of what I was shown was the same clarity I described when I talked about consciousness. It was not fuzzy or dreamlike, it was exact. And each thing was shown to me as a message, a direct transmission, addressed to a specific group of people. The group was the children. Every child who has ever been left without a mother or without a father. Not only the children whose parents died by violence, not only the children of murder victims, every child. Every child who has grown up knowing the specific shape of that absence, that particular wound. Every child who learned, at an age when children should not have to learn this, that one of the 2 people who were supposed to be there was not going to be there, whether to violence, to illness, to addiction, to abandonment, whatever the reason, whatever the circumstance. Jesus showed me 7 things that God says to every one of those children. The first thing is this: I see exactly where you are, not metaphorically, not as a reassurance designed to comfort without substance. What I was shown was that the attention of God is not divided between souls the way human attention divides between objects. When God sees you, he sees you entirely, the whole of you, not the surface presentation, not the adjusted version you show the world, not the story you tell yourself to keep moving, the whole of what you are, including the part of you that has been carrying the absence of that parent since the day you understood it was permanent. That part is fully known, fully seen, not looked away from, seen. The second thing is this: The wound you carry is not weakness. I was shown in that place children who had spent their entire lives believing that the hole left by a missing parent was a defect in them, that the way they flinched from certain kinds of love, or the way they could not receive it without waiting for it to be withdrawn, or the way they had learned to need people without letting people know they needed them, that all of that was evidence of some fundamental damage, something broken, something less than. What I was shown was that this is not true. The wound is evidence of love. A wound only exists where something was real, where something mattered. You cannot grieve the absence of what was never valuable to you. The depth of the wound is a measurement of the depth of the love, and the love was always real, even when the person was not there to give it, even when the person was not capable of giving it, even when the absence was by choice and the choice was devastating. God says, the wound you carry is not weakness. It is the shape of a love that was always yours, whether it was received or not. The third thing is this: I know what it cost you to become who you became. Here is something that I understand now that I did not understand before I died. There is a kind of strength that only develops in the specific conditions of that particular absence. Not a compensation, not a substitute for what should have been there. A genuine, irreplaceable strength that cannot grow any other way. The capacity for self-sufficiency that comes from having to provide it for yourself. The sensitivity to others' pain that comes from having lived in your own. The refusal to pretend that things are fine when they are not, because you spent your childhood in proximity to the ways things can fail to be fine. And the pretending never worked for you the way it works for people who have not seen what you have seen. God says, I know what it cost you to become who you became, and nothing that costs that much is invisible to me. I want to pause here for a moment because I need to tell you something about what it feels like to exist in that place and carry knowledge that you know you are being sent back to deliver. I knew at some point in the during that I was going back. I do not know when I knew it. It arrived the way the time absence arrived, simply present without a moment of becoming. I was going back, and everything I was being shown was being given to me with the understanding that it was not mine to keep. It was mine to carry. There is a difference. What is mine to keep can be stored. What is mine to carry has to be moved, has to be transferred, has to find the person it was addressed to. I am carrying these 7 things, and I need to give them to you. Please let me finish. The fourth thing is this: I gave you someone. In every child's life, regardless of the absence, regardless of the depth of the loss, there was a provision. Not always the obvious one, not always the person you would have chosen or the person you wished for. A teacher, a grandparent, a neighbor, a friend's mother who always kept an extra place at the table. Someone, or more than one someone, through whom something got through whom warmth was transmitted, through whom safety was approximated, even imperfectly, through whom the evidence arrived that you were worth staying for, even if the evidence came from an unexpected direction. God says, I gave you someone. It is possible you did not see it at the time. It is possible that the grief of the absence was so consuming that the presence of what I sent became invisible inside it. But I want you to go back and look, not to minimize the loss, not to suggest that what was given canceled out what was missing, but because the people I sent into that gap were sent with intention, and intention is something you deserve to know about. The fifth thing is this: your parent who was absent is known to me completely. This one is the complicated one. This is the one that took me the longest to hold, because some of the children Jesus was speaking to had lost parents to murder. Some had lost them to addiction. Some had lost them to illness or accident. But some had lost them to something harder to grieve than death. Some had lost parents who chose to leave, who chose drugs or other lives or other people over their children, who were present in body and absent in every other way, whose absence was not a tragedy imposed from outside, but a series of choices made from the inside. And for those children especially, for the ones who carry not only grief but confusion, not only loss but the particular wound of having been left on purpose, Jesus showed me this. The parent who could not stay, who could not be what they should have been, is known to God completely, not protected, not excused, known. And the accounting for that is not your responsibility. It never was. The weight of that choice belongs to the person who made it, and you were never supposed to carry it, and you do not have to carry it, and God has not assigned it to you, regardless of what the wound has told you over the years. God says, what they did or did not do is between them and me. You are free. You have always been free. The question is whether you believe it. The sixth thing is this. The family you build is sacred. There is something particular that happens in people who have grown up with that absence. An intensity of investment in the people they love. A ferocity of commitment to the families they make with their own choices. The friendships, the partners, the children. A hunger to provide what they did not receive. To build what was not built for them. To stay in the way that someone did not stay for them. God says, I see that building. I see every brick of it. Every choice to remain when remaining is costly. Every moment of showing up for someone because you know what it is to be in a room where no one shows up. That construction is sacred. That is not compensation. That is vocation. That is the specific, non-transferable mission that only someone who has been where you have been can carry. The seventh thing is this. You are not the end of the wound. You are the turning point. The things that broke in previous generations, the ways that parents failed their children, the ways that cycles perpetuated themselves, the ways that wounds were passed downward from person to person without anyone knowing how to stop the transmission. Those things can stop with a person. They do not have to continue. The decision to stop them does not require having had a perfect childhood. It does not require having healed completely before you begin. It requires only the willingness to become conscious of the pattern and to refuse to become the next link in the chain. God says, you are not the end of the wound. You are the place where it stops and something else begins. That is not a burden. That is not one more thing assigned to you without your consent. It is an invitation, and you are allowed to say yes to it or to set it down. But I want you to know that you are capable of it. I want you to know that the capacity was built in you by everything you have already survived. And then there was the return. I will not tell you it was peaceful. Coming back was violent in a way that the dying was not. Being reinserted into the structure of time, back into the machinery of a body that had been broken and repaired in a trauma bay while I was somewhere else entirely, that was disorienting in a way that I still have not fully resolved. There are mornings when I wake up and this world feels like a place I am visiting, not a place I live. There are moments when the sun hits a certain way and I am briefly somewhere between here and there, between the time that moves and the timelessness that waits. I am told this fades. I am 3 years out and I am told this fades. I believe it, but I do not feel it yet. The earth is not fully home anymore. I want to be honest about that. Not because I am suffering, not because I want to leave. I do not. My children are here and they need me, and I am here for them with everything that I have. But because the place I visited was so fundamentally real that this place has taken on a quality of temporary, of provisional, of something you inhabit without fully belonging to. The returned exile. That is what I am. Present here, carrying the knowledge of somewhere else, trying to do the work of translation between two kinds of existence. And the work of translation is this. What was given to me on the other side is not supposed to stay with me. It is supposed to move. It is supposed to find the person it was addressed to. And that person is the reason I am still telling this story 3 years later, through the confusion and the grief and the strange ongoing displacement of being someone who died and came back and knows the difference now. So let me end with the morning offering that I was given. Not a theology, not a practice, a specific small daily thing. Before you get out of bed tomorrow morning, before the structure of the day assembles itself around you, before the tasks and the notifications and the responsibilities begin to pull your attention in every direction, take 30 seconds. 30 seconds is all I am asking. And in those 30 seconds, say out loud or in your mind, however feels honest to you, the thing that you would most need someone to say to you today. Not a prayer someone taught you, not a formula, the actual sentence, the one that lives in the specific wound you carry. I see where you are. Or, what you carry is not weakness. Or, the family you are building is sacred. Whichever one landed, whichever one felt like something addressed to you and not to a general audience. Say it first, before anything else, before you check the time or think about the day or begin the performance of being fine. Say the thing that is true, that God has been trying to get to you, that I was sent back from the other side to deliver, because that is what I was sent back to do. Not to be impressive, not to be a spiritual curiosity, not to be someone who died and therefore carries authority. I was sent back to carry 7 things and give them to the people they were meant for. And if you are still here, if you watched all the way to this moment, I think we both know that at least one of those 7 things was for you. If that thing landed, if something in this shifted or confirmed or cracked open something that needed to open, leave it in the comments. I am not asking out of algorithm habit. I am asking because the 7 things were shown to me in the company of faces, souls I could not identify, people across time and circumstance who carry the same wound. You are one of them. And I would like to know that you received what I brought back. Tomorrow morning, 30 seconds. Before the day begins, that is the offering. That is the door. You do not have to do anything dramatic on the other side of it. You just have to go through. I will see you next time.